I've always kind of wondered, like, when someone flubs on their social media, like, how do you, not so much that, when your client.
What do you mean?
Well, when a client, maybe one of your artists says something they shouldn't have said on Twitter, and there's no take-backs in the internet, as you can delete it all you want, but someone saw it and they screen grabbed it, and that's out there, and, like, what do you do?
Because I happen to have worked with Billy Corgan and Chuck D, and they like to be very opinionated. I learned this process of making sure, and they are both on Twitter. I don't work for Billy anymore, but, and I had their texts go to my phone. I mean, anytime they tweet, it goes to it texts to my phone. Smart. So that I can, if I'm not around or not watching, and I see that he's saying something questionable, then I can, attack it pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a brand issue kind of going off message?
Oh, yeah. I most recently helped set up the social media platform for NOS, which is the energy drink for Coca-Cola. And wow, some of those people in there are really interesting. And not necessarily what the brand would want to speak for them. So I think you can't really delete it, but what you can do is you have to come up with a response plan that is intelligent and speaks to the brand values, yet doesn't alienate anyone, and that's tricky. And I think brands need to always have this pat messaging, direct messaging plan in place when these things happen. I think you have to be preemptive. Instead of waiting for it to happen, you have to assume something's going to happen, and you need to have that already in place and approved by the brand where you can get your messaging out there and how you handle it. And every brand is different, but I would say preemptive.
I was just going to say, that's kind of a two-sided question, because if you have your artist or your client who are flubbing up, but then you have the fans, and then you have to monitor them. Mm-hmm. And for example, recently, someone was posting on the Public Enemy board, and they started using foul language, and okay, they all, the band uses foul language, but the way they were doing it is they were attacking each other. And so I just went on there and said, opinions are completely warranted here. I don't know exactly what I said, but, we won't tolerate this type of thing, and I deleted it. It's like, don't attack each other on Facebook on our page. And it's also, I can do that because Chuck would let me do that. He would be like, no, that's not my message, so get him off here.
So to that end, when the two of you are working with social media teams, like when you're advising your brand team, and I'm sure there's more than one person working with you on your projects, or maybe Chuck has his own people that like to jump in or whatever. At the start of a project, do you put together a more or less style guide of what to tweet about and what goes on which platform? Like, I've talked to a lot of social people who say, well, I only use Facebook for this, and my message on Twitter is all this, and this is just information, and this is just for conversation, and this is just for this. Like, do you have sort of I don't know what to call it besides a style guide, of what to do and what the voice is and what the message is for each platform, and how would you put that together?
I do that for brands, just because anything you do with a brand generally has to be signed off by whoever the stakeholders are. So I put together a presentation and show this is what we're proposing, and get their feedback, and then you go back and forth until you get it right. Most brands are still trying to figure social media out, so they generally go with your recommendation. So that's definitely, there's an approval process in place.
I don't do that at all. I have no process. I have no marketing plan. I have merged myself.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can do those. I did that for Imagine Oceana. I put it together in a presentation, and I know, I do that. But as far as like all of that, I just get in and know my artists. What I do is very niche, so I have to kind of think like them for a while. Mm-hmm. And I don't have anything specific. Although I do, I use, there are certain rules, of course, like you don't freaking post every tweet to Facebook. Don't post every single Instagram to Facebook. Like, Facebook has its own thing, and they don't like APIs, so they'll block you, and there's some, I always post directly to Facebook as much as possible.
Yes, agreed.
Because they don't play nice with others. And then, so those type of rules I follow more often. Like, you can tweet as much as you want. Although, I gotta say, Chuck will retweet like 10 things in a row, and finally I told him, like, you can't do that because you're gonna lose your message. Mm-hmm. If you keep, just wait 5 minutes and then do another one. Right. Please, but he doesn't listen to me.
When your goal with your social media campaign is growth of audience, what have been some of your most effective ideas or campaigns?
Well, I think there's two ways of looking at it in social media. You have audience engagement, which I'm a big proponent of, and then the thing that brands love to look at is, oh, we have all these likes on Facebook, but they might not mean anything because you can buy those, and it doesn't mean anything. So, but that's part of their KPI or what they're being judged on in their job. So they're
We
just
call
like,
that the MySpace mentality.
yeah, it is. It exactly. That's so true. So I would say if you get your community talking about your event or whatever it is that you're doing, that to me is a success more so than getting 100, likes in 5 minutes. So I think you have to set that up too in the beginning of a campaign, and there's an educational process of trying to get brands and people within brands that are not on social media mostly to understand that what they want is a conversation that goes viral as opposed to this number that's ticking up. That really doesn't mean anything.
I can
to
give
me.
you some, sorry.
Go ahead.
I can give you some really easy strategic points for each platform. With Twitter, what I do is I go in, especially with artists that are already established. People don't know they have a Twitter, so I go in and I do a search for that artist name, and I just start liking their posts. If it says, for example, Public Enemy, but they don't even know that it's a Public Enemy has a Twitter. And this worked really great for the Afghan Wigs because they did a reunion tour. No one even knew they were doing it. But then when I went in and the Afghan Wigs all of a sudden liked their post about Greg Dooley, they were like freaking out. And that's how I gained a lot of followers for artists. And then Instagram, it's more about hashtags.
So you started following them or just favoriting?
Just favoriting.
Okay, as at Afghan Wigs or whatever the Twitter is, just
Yep.
favoriting. So they knew that you were there, they saw it, and they would go, oh my God, follow.
Yep.
Okay, got it, okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And again, Facebook is trickier because they change the rules of the road every day. And, you just get one down and you've got a quick win in a case study and then you're unable to do it again. So I think that Instagram and Twitter are really your ace in the hole when you're trying to get.
It's harder to
fan
find
engagement.
people on Facebook. Like with Twitter, you can just do a search for a hashtag or a keyword, and everybody who posts about that, boom, it's right there. You can't really do that with Facebook because you can't see their posts unless you're friends with them. So it's got to be harder.
And even then, you only see 10% of those posts. So
Right.
If 10%.
if you're lucky.
So
On a good day.
how do you find your people on Facebook?
Well, exactly the way they want you to. You advertise.
So when is
Pay
it
for
worth? So I've done some Facebook advertising for Ladies Who Brunch. Sometimes it's effective. Sometimes I've kind of like burn out on it. What I found lately is that when I post on our Facebook about an event, I just do the promotion thing for like $15. It reaches like another 4,000 people. Yeah, paid posts. Yeah, but it goes to everybody who likes my page and everybody who likes them. So, and we're very niche. I don't want to put an ad on Craigslist to come to Ladies Who Brunch. I need women in entertainment. That's it. You have a job, you're out of college, you're in entertainment, you're in LA, that's my market. So I'm really specific about how I try to promote that. So it's good for that. But like if you got a movie coming out, like when do you know like when to buy an ad? Do you buy ads on Twitter, and how does that work? And what's the best strategy for advertising on, like, are sponsored posts worth it?
I've done
sponsored
some
tweets?
Twitter advertising for smaller campaigns like smaller record labels, DJs, and live events. I'd say it's moderately successful. I mean, you get a few more people following you. I don't know that more than 1% of those people showed up at the event. So I don't know. I think that everything's still in a testing phase. I think that we're all still forming our opinions on that. And I think if anybody comes in and tells you they know exactly what they're doing, I would not hire them because it's still
Don't drink
it's
the
still a
water.
Wild West. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. I mean, Facebook to me for artists and brands is how do I say this? I can't stand it. It's gotten to a point where it's not artist friendly, it's not brand friendly, it's family friendly. My mom and everybody's putting their entire life in there. That is the Akashic record. We are creating a new brain on Facebook. You take Google and Wikipedia and Facebook and Twitter, and our entire brains are going in there, but that's a whole other panel. So Facebook, I found advertising really good for touring because you can geo-target. So I found that very helpful, and then you can also geo-target certain events, and I find that very helpful. But overall, or if you're working with an artist, you can, I haven't done it in a while, but a while ago you could geo-target to like artists. So if you know an artist like the Afghan Wigs, every Mark Lanigan fan loves the Afghan Wigs, so you would tell the Afghan Wigs, you know what I'm talking about. But in general, I think that they just are shutting everything down for artists and brands because they think that we have the money to advertise and pay for posts, and it's lame.
Right.
On that note, I would say that event pages are probably the most effective on Facebook. I agree with everything you said, by the way. But I think that if you have an event and you have an event page, that's a really great way to get your community to know about that event, and then they can invite their friends, and you can get groups of people
What do
going.
you mean by event page? You mean just create an event?
Create a separate event page as
Yes.
opposed to your basic page, your basic Facebook page. You can create a separate event page.
For a whole tour?
Sure,
Or
you can do a tour. You can do. What we did at Red Bull, we would do it per city, though. So you would build out an event page for each city, and then the people that are going to that event can talk to each other, and it opens up another channel.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about a whole new page, or are you talking about
Yes.
creating an event?
It's an event, yes, an event.
Okay,
An
okay,
event
we're on the
page,
same
yes.
page.
On your, right, but it's a separate page, it's not.
Yeah, and using bands in town is convenient if you're working with artists, but I find a lot of issues with them, and so I always suggest that you create regular Facebook events as well.
Yes.
You can get fans to interact on the pages there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that actually begs a really good question. There's lots of companies that have popped up like Bands in Town that can help you do your social more effectively. What's in your little bag of tricks? Like, what are always your go-tos that you find are the most effective? What tools do you have to sort of help you, whether it's Next Big Sound, or in terms of analysis or promotion? Are there any services you use that you find to be really effective when you're doing your campaigns?
Well, for reporting, I'm a big fan of Brandwatch. They're a UK company that came up in the US the last couple of years to go up against Radian 6, which is another reporting center. And you only pay them per inquiry, so you don't have to pay them $10,000 to get reporting. So depending upon the size of your project, I'm a big fan of Brandwatch over the other ones. And it was also what the British intelligence agencies all used, and it developed out of their technology, so I think it's really effective. I still use Hootsuite. I would love somebody to come up with a better social media posting. Because it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not visual
What's
enough
missing?
for me.
Like, what would make it better?
Oh, it's just really, it's just very antiquated in the way that you visually look at it in columns. And the great thing is you can track hashtags, and you can go in and you can post in lots of different channels just with being on one interface. However, it's just not sophisticated. It would be my take on it. So it's not a great content management system, but it's the best that I've found. If anyone knows of another one, please let me know. For managing lots of accounts, and Twitter and Facebook.
And you, any go-tos?
I go direct to the platform now.
You're just homegrown?
I have, different browsers open for different artists, and I go direct to the platform because I find that, well, especially with Facebook, you have to go direct to Facebook. You can't go from Hootsuite or anywhere else to Facebook. They will shut you down. That's just how it is. They don't put posts on your fans' wall.
Interesting. Okay.
So I go direct to Facebook all the time, without question. And for Twitter, I go direct a lot too. Or I'll go back and forth where I'll use Hootsuite or one of those to do things like or search. But posting, I post direct, always. Or I post like Instagram to Twitter, but I don't use a content management
It must
system.
take you so much time to do all that posting.
It is the most effective to do it directly.
Yeah.
If you can do that. And a lot of times, I just get frustrated with Hootsuite, and I'll just go back out and start doing it directly in the channel. So it might take me longer, but I know it's accurate if I'm posting.